Today's episode is going to be a listener shout out, or rather, a viewer shout out, and also some comments on an earlier episode from about 3 or 4 days ago on being your own boss. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, I'm sure you guys know that whenever I put stuff up here on the podcast, I also head over to the Instagram handle at Sales Conversations, and sometimes I put up a post or a video just reiterating some of the thoughts that we have shared here on the podcast. And so a recent follower who has also commented on some of the posts, particularly that be your own boss post, and this person is Career Thoughts with Lynn. That's her Instagram handle. So it's career spelled the same way, thoughts spelled the usual way, and then with Lynn, but the Lynn is Lyn, just one N. So her contribution on the whole thing about being your own boss was, she said in her own professional opinion, that first of all you have to know why you plan to leave and then make a plan to leave. So for those of you who are intending newbies who want to get into the wedding event space, but you currently have a 9 to 5, so apart from the things that I said about the implications of being your own boss and the extreme personal responsibility that you'll have to exercise over yourself and over your finances, she says it's a good idea for you to know why you plan to leave. I guess that ties in with folks like Simon Sinek and that whole know your why and know your intent, and then after that make a plan to leave, which is something that I have advised intending photographers in the past. My advice has always been, yeah, sure, take the leap, become a wedding photographer, but let's be realistic. You need finances, you need a runway, and more often than not, when I meet these young men, they're not married yet, but in a serious relationship. And so I also say that you also have to have that in mind when we're thinking about runways, because the chances are you're going to be married in another 2 to 3 years, maybe 5. And so these are all the things that you have to factor into the equation. So know why you want to make the leap, and then come up with a solid plan for making that leap, and you should be fine. So again, the listener or the viewer, since she commented on the video on the Instagram handle, the viewer is Career Thoughts with Lynn. So you guys can check her out. She's into human resources and career counseling, and her focus is making sure that you put your best foot forward for your dream job. Yeah, so that's it pretty much on the previous conversations that we've been having on the being your boss thing, and whether you should make that jump from being a 9 to 5 person into being self-employed or being your own boss. But a few more comments on the whole thing though. Sometimes having a traditional boss, having an oga in the office or a madam in the office, sometimes it's less capricious than being bound to the market or being bound to your investors. The reason why I mention this is because in the post and also on the Instagram handles, I've mentioned that when you're your own boss, you're going to be bound to the vagaries of the market. So let's say you are in the wedding event space, you're going to be bound to the ups and downs of the market, macroeconomic trends, things like that. For instance, like the coronavirus episode that we were exposed to. In the first few months from March last year, after the lockdown started coming into effect, was a little unnerving for some of us, not knowing where things were going to go and how far. So this is just an example of stuff that you're exposed to when you decide to become your own boss. And for those people who had regular 9 to 5s, the financial implications or the certainty over the career wasn't as, let's just say they weren't as scared. There was a certain element of security. So you are bound to the vagaries of the market when you decide to be your own boss and become a big boy or a big girl and take the step towards being a wedding photographer or a planner or or the cake artist or whatever it is that you want to do. And then, of course, there's also the episode I think I made yesterday or 2 days before about how when you take the leap and you source outside financing, then you are bound to your investors and their expectations. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tarishima Ayede. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.